Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn and I am super excited about this week's episode. Last week, I went and talked about getting the right inquiries. This week, I want to talk about the fact that they've inquired, but now what? So this is going to be a strategy for getting the right couples to book discovery calls with you, to take that next step with you. So if you're wondering what to do when someone inquires, or maybe what I do when someone inquires, to walk them through to get them onto that ever so important consultation call, and this episode is definitely something you should check out. So before we get into that, I do want to mention our friends over at howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. We have vetted a handful of outsourcing partners to outsource and edit your wedding films for you. There are a lot of people out there that edit wedding films, and we have found a handful that actually do a good job, that are going to return your calls, that we personally worked with. And so if you head over to howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing, you can check out our full list of approved vendors there. I would recommend doing that before the busy season gets here. Get on their schedule. Lots of great things about outsourcing your wedding films, of course. So be sure to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. As I mentioned, last week we talked about getting the right inquiries. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I would encourage you to pause this episode, go back and look and listen to last week's episode where we dug in to not just getting inquiries that are asking what your prices are, but really people that you want to work with. And so I'm assuming that you've implemented these things and you're actually getting inquiries of people that know your brand and know your brand voice. And if they don't, and they're just reaching out, they just found you today, this strategy might not work. So my strategy is to really warm them up, get them to know I exist. And when they reach out, they already know a lot about me. I had a call yesterday with a bride. She said she's been watching my films for a while. She just got engaged. She loves how my films have soul and they don't feel heartless. And she was like, my favorite film is Maggie and Scott's wedding film. I love how you did this with the edit. I love how you did fast pace over here. I love what you stand for. I love that you're a family person. They knew a lot about me, which was kind of creepy, but also awesome. So she inquired and I got her on a call yesterday and they're in negotiations right now to book a package for next year. And so that's a real life example of what I want, for you to be able to do. And, we're going to dig in that today. So I have my phone set to literally notify me. There is a notification from my CRM that says a new inquiry as soon as somebody comes in. It buzzes on their app and it just shows on my home screen. So I get this jolt of energy. There's nothing like it, getting a new inquiry, feeling validated as an Enneagram 3. Someone sees me and someone wants my work. It makes me feel good. So I, first of all, recommend immediate notifications on, for inquiries through your CRM. Obviously, if you want to turn your notifications off on your phone between certain hours, that's fine. But you've got to know that the inquiry is coming in when it is, especially during work hours. So first things first, though, we have to define what the goal of our next step in the process is. Obviously, we want to book, the couple, but what's our next step? What do we want to happen when they inquire? So the question is, what do we do after we get an inquiry? And we're going to dig into that. What should you do based off of your brand? Because it's different for different people. And it's different if a planner reaches out to me that I know, or a photographer and says, hey, are you available on this day? I have somebody interested. Or if it's just a random inquiry, there's different things. So before even getting into that, I do want to talk about your inquiry form on your website. I'm going to read off all the things that I have on my form. And I would just say the more things that you have for someone to fill out, the less inquiries you're going to get. And on your website, if you say, here's all the prices, here's all the packages, you're going to get a lot less inquiries too, because people are going to see everything you offer, see the price, and make a decision about you before they ever talk to you. If you have a starting price, you're going to weed people out. If you say my wedding packages start at $5,000 and their budget is less than that, you want to probably weed some of these people out. So The inquiry form is very important. The page on your site is really important. I have imagery of me with a planner. I have imagery with me and a couple. I have testimonials that say hiring John was the best decision we made. He was like family. I've got a very image-friendly contact page. Embedded into the page is my inquiry form. And I have a medium amount of fields for them to fill out. But if you're struggling for inquiries, I would say name, email, wedding date, phone number, maybe, like just very simple. Like the less they have to give you, the more likely they are going to fill out your form. It's something like over 50% of inquiry forms are abandoned after starting. So don't make it hard. Make it easy for them to reach out. You can always ask more questions after they reach out. Now you've got their name, their email. So just think about that. So my inquiry form has a spot for their name, their email, their event date. Are they interested in video, photo, or both? Their phone number, their wedding location, venue and city if they know. How did they hear about me? And then it says, share your IG handles with me, Instagram. And what made you reach out to me with parentheses that says optional. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm having them fill out, but there's not like too much stuff for me. I also have 22 weddings booked for this year and 3 or 4 for next year. So like, I'm okay at this point weeding some people out. I currently, as it sits today, do not have my starting price right there because I hope that the next stages of my process will kind of help you understand kind of why I'm doing that. I think a lot of couples don't know their budget, especially for video. They look at Wedding Wire or The Knot and they think they have a $2,000 budget when they're spending maybe $20,000 on a band. And if the venue is correct, the planner is correct, different things, I can say, oh, they just might not know that they could spend more on video. So my website says this is expensive. My videos, my branding, all of it seems expensive. So of the 10 to 20 inquiries that I would say I'm now getting a week, I would say like 10 to 12 of them just can't afford me. My next steps in my process, I can show you how I weed them out with that one next level, of weeding out. So my goal is, whenever I'm defining what is my goal, is I want to get them into a discovery call. I want to get the right people into a discovery call and I want to get the wrong people to not schedule a call with me. I don't know about you, but I've had so many times where I've had a great 30-minute call with somebody only to find out that their budget was like a quarter of what it would take to book me. Now we're going to take a quick break, not for an ad, but for me to take a sip of this coffee. If you have a coffee, take one. If not, take a deep breath, inhale, exhale. I'll be back in like 6 seconds. Afternoon coffee. Okay. So, this, like the inquiry form and what you have around it and how easy you make it for people to find it on your website, how often you're connecting it to your social media will cause more inquiries to happen. That's a different episode. That's a different time, but I recommend having a great strategy for that. But if you think about it, when someone inquires with you, they have most likely been on your social media and now they've been through your website and they want more info. They're like, I could see myself working with this guy or a girl. And I look at it as this is the first chance that I really have to make an impression on my future buyer, outside of my website and social media. This is like my first chance to help them experience my brand. So what do I do with that information? I try to put myself in their shoes. And think about this. If you've just been recently married, maybe it's a little easier for you. I'm coming up on 20 years of being married, so it has been a while, for me. But a lot of people get engaged if they've been warmed up to you. They're inquiring with a different set of, thoughts. If they're just finding you or have just found you in the last couple of weeks, it's different. And so that's why my inquiry form says, how did you hear about me? Share your IG handles with me and what made you reach out, optional. A lot of times in the inquiry form, they say, I've been following you for 2 years, I finally got engaged. That's a different type of lead for me than if they just put nothing, or I just found you today looking for prices. Like, so I can vet the lead a little bit after they've inquired. But if I put my mindset, myself into the mindset of the person reaching out, they have just been on their computer or phone. They have just looked at my work. They're excited about it enough to fill in the information, and they're ready for more. And I don't know if you've noticed, especially in 2025, things are pretty immediate in the world. You can get DoorDash, you can get Amazon Prime, you can get movies now without ever going to the theater. Like, people just want it now. They want it conveniently. And a lot of us as wedding professionals really suck at getting back to people. You know, on the website, it says, we'll return your inquiry within 72 hours. And I'm just like, I mean, I guess 72 hours, like I could order something from Amazon and get it faster than 72 hours. Like, a lot of times now I can get stuff from Amazon the same day. And so people are just used to faster service than that. So it's based off of you and your brand. I recommend responding as quickly as possible. If somebody inquires and I'm sitting at my desk, I'll get into how I do responses, but I'm trying to respond within 10 minutes, maybe an hour. If it's after hours, I might even shoot them a text and say, hey, I just got your inquiry. I will get you info first thing in the morning when I get to my desk. But if you have any questions, feel free to text me. So we're asking ourselves, what is the goal? Your goal might be different from the inquiry form. My goal is I want to get them on a call. And I think that should be your goal, but I don't want to make you, do that. You get to decide. So, we got to put ourselves in the mindset of the person reaching out. Like I've said, they're just now reaching out. They want information. They're peak excited to talk to you when they reach out to you. So sometimes it might be annoying to 1 out of 100 couples, but if within a minute or two, they get a text message or an email from you that says, hey, Susie, I just saw about your inquiry at Southern Hills Country Club on April the 16th of next year. This is John. This is my personal number. I'm going to be sending you an email, but wanted you to have my number. If you have any initial questions, I'm so excited to hear more about your wedding. Like, that is them experiencing the personalization that I want in the John Bunn Films brand. That's my first chance to see how much interest they have in wanting to connect personally with me. Sometimes they don't respond to the text. Sometimes they do. But it's different per person for me. So I want to put myself in the mindset of that person reaching out and think, if I were them, what would I want to happen? And if I were them, I would want someone to get back to me really quickly with information that helps me understand whether or not I'm a good fit. So, you know, as we talked about, we love getting new inquiries. But first things first, we have to define what our next step is. What are we going to do after the inquiry? We discussed like what's on my inquiry form, and then really are starting to chat about like the first chance now that we really have to let them experience our brand. And I want to move into the next phase of like how I would want to be contacted, or what the next step would be if I were inquiring with John Bunn Films. I'm going to do that, but first I want to mention our friends at VidFlow. If you don't know about VidFlow, this is an online delivery platform where you can deliver your weddings. You upload the footage, you upload the films, and it's a player where you can embed that into your website. You can put it on an Apple TV app. You can just send it in an email, and it allows the couple to experience their wedding film with a custom digital gallery. It allows them to download the full high resolution videos. It can be customized with your branding, that sort of thing. I actually embed my VidFlow galleries into a custom page on my website. My couples love it. And then that way, anytime they need to go watch their film, they're coming to my website. So if you haven't checked out VidFlow, check out howtofilmweddings.com/VidFlow, and it'll link you to the best deals and promos to get signed up today. So how we would aim for our ideal buyer and how we would want them to experience our brand is different for every brand. You might want it to feel very high end, and you might be aiming for like super luxury, and you don't want to be just super available. You might see that as a sign of cheap or weak or whatever, and that's okay. Or you might want to be best friends with your couples. That's okay too. Like, where do you fit with how you want to interact with your couples? And I would lean into that. So how would you want your ideal buyer to be contacted is really the question. For me, I read every inquiry. I see what mutual contacts we might have. I look them up on Instagram because they give me their Instagram handle, and I get a feel for who they are as a person and what they're looking for. I also look at the inquiry to look and say, do they have a huge thing in the why they reached out? Do they feel like, where's the venue at? Can I tell who their planner is? Can I look up the planner and see like, oh, this wedding is going to be a higher caliber wedding. I am going to tailor my responses a little bit more, knowing that this is a very affluent family, or a very affluent couple, than if it's just like, somebody that doesn't fit that mold. Like, not if they don't have money, but like if they reach out and all they say is like, haven't booked a planner yet, we're looking at this venue sometime in the fall. That's different. That's just a different response. And so depending on the excitement level, most of mine are really excited because I've warmed them up. And still though, people get through with just like what is your price? I have an auto email that goes out whenever they inquire, but it's not just like a thanks for contacting. Someone will be in touch with you soon. It's got my image on it and it says, hey, Susie, I just got your inquiry. I wanted to make sure I have the details correct from your, venue and date. Can you please respond to this email with your venue and your date just to make sure that I have it right before I look up my calendar and make sure I'm available for you? If you can respond real quick, I'll then send you some information about pricing and how to get a call with me. So what this does, again, I'm weeding people out. I don't like, because I run How to Film Weddings, there's a lot of wedding filmmakers that reach out trying to get my pricing, which if you want my pricing, just ask me, I'll give it to you. So I'm just making sure this is a real person. I'm making sure that like they're excited. They've inquired. They get an email from me saying, hey, I'm so excited. Can you confirm your date with me and your venue? Why am I doing this? It's not just to add an extra step, but I want to get the conversation going now with little questions back and forth. So we're interacting. I do the same thing with a text message to most of my couples. Hey, Susie, saw you inquired about April 24th next year at Southern Hills. Is that date correct? Just simple. If there was too much in that text or email, it feels like, I'll get back to him later. I've got to fill out another form. I'm looking for little bite-sized pieces. So it's like, hey, Susie, this is John Bunn Films. I don't say John Bunn Films, John with John Bunn Films. And I saw about your wedding date. Is that correct? The location? I wanted to make sure to see if I'm available on that day. Now, if I can get them texting me, I like that personally better, because then I can start to send voice notes if I want to. I can send emojis. It's just faster than an email. They usually respond back like, wow, that was so awesome. Yeah, that's the wedding date. Excited to hear more. And then I can move further into the process. And again, I'm gauging each couple and each buyer type differently. I've mentioned Sam Jacobson 100,000 times on this podcast, but he has brilliant information about buyer types on his Own Your Business podcast. And I don't even scratch the surface to where his knowledge, his book smarts are on this, but there are different buyer types. There are people that are used to kind of being a boss in a situation. There are analyzer people, kind of like my wife, who want to read every review and know every detail. And then there are relators and dreamers, and different people do different things. Some people are dreaming about their wedding. Some people are trying to like experience just the most amazing thing. They want to gush about why they reached out. So I'm trying to determine what kind of buyer they are. And a lot of people get frustrated when someone is more of a boss type and they're just like, we just want to get down to brass tacks. What is the cost? And they're like, how rude. You're not respecting my art or whatever. And I can dig into that on another episode. But for me, I am trying to understand the kind of buyer that I'm working with so that I can cater their sales experience to what they need so I can help them have the best experience. And so a lot of the times I'll shoot that text over with a little waving hand emoji and whatever, and the bride or whatever will reach back out real fast and say, yes, those are the dates. I love your work. I'm so excited. And I'll say, oh, yay, that's awesome. Looks like I'm open on that date. Would love to get you more information. And then I will walk them through that step. If they don't respond to a text and they don't respond to an email, I have follow-up emails that go out. But if they do respond only to email, that's where I'll start to correspond with them. And my goal is sending them a scheduler link to pick a time for a quick 30-minute call. And again, I am trying to just make it as easy and step-by-step as possible. Now, if I just go from inquiry to trying to get them to do a phone call, sometimes that is skipping part of the process, but sometimes people are ready for that. So I'm gauging that. I might ask a couple more questions. So let's say we're in a text thread and the bride says, yes, April 24th next year is the date. Are you available? And I say, yes. Or you said you were wanting video and photo or just one or the other? Like, simple question. I'm just trying to get back and forth and back and forth. And then, I might even say something like, well, that date's open. I need and would love to hear more about your wedding day. I can send over a link for you to snag a Zoom call. And if you want to hop on, or if you and your mom or whoever's helping pay for it wants to hop on, we can do that. I have even some time this afternoon, or we can do in the next few days. What this does is this allows me to learn who the players are in writing checks. It gets me to know their excitement on chatting. And I also text them and say, I can get you some basic information on like starting prices and things like that. Before we chat, of course, but I build things custom. My 1-day collections start at $8,500 for video and $7,500 for photo. Now this is a moment usually I want them warmed up and talking to me, relating to me. Sometimes I've sent a voice note by this point, just saying, hey, voice is easier. And I'll like walk them through. This is what I usually do. No two weddings are the same. I just want to hear about your wedding. My goal is not to sell you. My goal is to understand you. And if I'm the right fit, then yeah, I want to obviously work with you. And then I can in that voice note say, if you need some like starting price range, that kind of stuff, I'm happy to give it. And so my goal is before sending them the scheduler link for them to know that my photos start at $7,500 and my videos start at $8,500 for solo shooting 1 day. If they can afford that, I know they can afford my 2 shooters for 1 day or my 2 shooters for 2 days. They just might not know it yet, or they might not warmed up enough or don't understand. And the only thing they know is the wedding wire thing that they read saying that the price was what it was. And I will allude to the fact that it's like, I know it's more expensive than probably who other people you've reached out to. I totally get that. We stand by the work and the quality of the experience we're going to give you. But if that doesn't work out, if that's out of budget, let me know and I can point you in the direction of some newer people that might be less. So that's kind of like my process, and inquiries happening. And I'm doing a lot of work too. A lot of times people are like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. That's just like way out of my budget. I don't want to waste your time. Cool. What's your budget? Let me point you in the direction of somebody else. Or they say, okay, yeah, that works. That makes sense. Let's hop on a call. And then I can text, say, does today work? I can send you a Zoom scheduler link. If there's a time right now while we're texting that works, you can tell me. Or if you want to chat here in 15 to 30 minutes, I can, or whatever. Like, I'm just working with them. Trying to get that scheduler link so they can hop on a Zoom call with me. And I'm also trying to pre-qualify who's the decision maker. And is that mom? In my case, a lot of times it is the mom with the bride, because I don't want to get on a call with just a bride. She falls in love with my work and then she talks to her parents and they're like, absolutely not. We're not spending 10 grand on that or whatever. And so again, my goal is to get them on a call. And I'm thinking about that scenario I mention on the podcast all the time. You don't just walk up to a person at the bar and ask them to marry you. You really work a process. And I can't say it enough that like, this should be an extension of your brand, the sales process. It should be enjoyable for everyone. They should feel served. My couples feel served, even if they don't book me. They feel like he served me. He helped me get to, like, he saved me time. I didn't have to sit through another 30-minute call. These brides and grooms are having to sit through so many calls. I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time. And I'm serving them even if they don't book with me. And what happens a lot of times, if I'm out of range for somebody, they still follow me on Instagram. They still refer me to other people over time. I'm not thinking short-sighted. I'm thinking, how can I help this person decide if they want to take another step with me? Speaking of taking a step, I strongly recommend you take a step towards the howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed link on our website. You might be saying, gosh, John, that was a great transition. It was. And MusicBed is a great brand for you. You can license your music from MusicBed. Amazing artists, great tools, AI tools, beats per minute, genre, instruments. Like, you can pick all the different things, the key that it's in. And the artists on MusicBed are insanely good. The best of the best. They do the best job that I know of any outsourcing or music licensing platform. That's why we recommend them, is because the music is the best. They do the best job at securing artists that you're not going to find on other platforms. And so MusicBed obviously has been one of our biggest sponsors since the beginning, and we solely use MusicBed still. So we strongly recommend that. howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. So getting them to take that next step to schedule, that's like, they've inquired, now what? I want to determine where I want them to go. I want to make sure my inquiry is very specific. I want their first impression of me to be great. I want to put myself in their mindset. I want them to be contacted the way I would want to be contacted. And then I want to make it really easy for them to know my prices and know kind of where I start out. I don't want them to know all my prices, but I want to get them on that phone call with the right people on that call. So if I've done my job, sometimes I can be on a call with the bride and her mother within 30 minutes of them inquiring, which is awesome. Sometimes it's 3 days later. It just depends. And my goal is to get them on that call. And then I'm going to transition into talking about how I warm them up before that specific call. Before a couple gets on a call, they should have a general idea of your pricing. And before a couple gets on a call, they should know exactly what types of weddings you offer, the ones that you're after. So for me, what does the warm up look like before the call? Like I said, my goal is to get them on a call with me and the right people. And typically I can get a call scheduled the same day or within 24 to 48 hours. But what does my warm up look like before the call itself? If they're in and if they're texting me, I'm sending them a scheduler link and just sending them an audio note saying this is how the call is going to work. If they're emailing me, I usually put in the email, like, here's a link to the call. It's going to take 30 minutes. It's not a sales pitch. I'm learning about your wedding to see if I'm a good fit. I can tell you about the things I offer, but it should take us about 30 minutes. And by the end of the call, I should have like some type of a ballpark range for you to know what I cost. As a reminder, I start at this amount and a lot of my couples will spend this amount, something like that. And I'm warming them up. They schedule the call. Let's say they schedule it for tomorrow. They're getting an email an hour before the call from me with a template email that says the call's in 1 hour. And as a reminder, this is the starting price. This is what we're going to do. Please bring any person making payments or making decisions to the call. I don't want to waste your time or theirs. And I warm them up to the call. And we've talked about inquiry calls, but the first thing that I do when they get on the call is I also remind them everything I've reminded them, because it's an extension of the brand. My ideal buyers want that kind of thing. I'm not saying you should do that. That is something I've carefully crafted over time that works for me and my buyers. And so maybe you do something a little different. Maybe you send a video message to them with stuff. Maybe I don't know. It's whatever you want to do, but don't just wing it, and definitely don't just like throw them your brochure after they inquire and say, let me know if you want to book something, because you're leaving not only money on the table, but you're leaving the service that you could give your couples on the table. And so my final thoughts on this really is like the inquiry process should be a seamless extension of the experience you want to offer. And you should intentionally frame this out uniquely for your brand. I want you to think about this week as you're getting new inquiries or you're walking through, the inquiry process. Serve your couples. Serve them by helping them know the price, by letting them know how your meetings are going to work, whatever that is. But have that plan for the buyer's journey ready to go. Know where you're taking them. Don't randomly just try to schedule a call or whatever to one inquiry, but not the next. So really pay attention to your strategy for being, when couples inquire. So they've inquired. Now what? Hopefully you know the answer to that question. I do want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully this episode was helpful. I know it's short and sweet, but I think that if we can get this part of our process down, we're going to be able to book so much better weddings for our brand as well as make so much more money. So if this episode was helpful for you, please shoot us a DM over on howtofilmweddings.com. Nope, Instagram. How to Film Weddings on Instagram. That's it. I almost botched that. Instagram.com/howtofilmweddings. Definitely check us out over at howtofilmweddings.com, our shop, our tools, things like that. And until next time, we'll see you.